Minecraft as a game has seen a countless number of weird and game-breaking features in its decade-long history. Features so weird that if left in the game today, they could entirely change the way Minecraft works. You probably remember stuff like being able to craft a notch apple with 8 golden blocks, or being able to craft chainmail armor with fire blocks. These were both removed in updates 1.8 and 1.9, but if we go way back to the older versions of Minecraft, there were some features that do not fit the idea of Minecraft at all. Now, there are a lot of things that I could start with in the old versions, but why don't we start with the old passive human mobs that were added in this version of the game. These weird looking characters were only in the game for 2 days before they were removed. The 2 mobs you see on screen are Beast Boy and Black Steve. These were the 2 mobs that existed in this specific version, but if we go to another version, Rana and Steve are in these ones as well. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the developers were thinking with these mobs, but they kinda just aimlessly roamed around. They didn't really do anything. They were supposed to have a walking animation, but instead they just glided across the ground in this same position. Now, these are cool and all, but they only lasted for a measly 2 days in Minecraft. But if we go one update ahead to this one, we get the one and only Steve mob. Now, I totally expected to load up this world and find more Beast Boy and Rana mobs, but instead a massive horde of Steves spawned right in front of me. For some reason, these Steves spawned in hordes just like animals, and just like the other mobs, Steve just kinda walked around aimlessly. However, the Steves just sort of waved their arms around when they moved, and unlike the 4 other mobs, Steve gets red when you hit it. Now, I'm not entirely sure if the other mobs could drown, but Steve as well as the horde of Steves just kind of drowned in front of me when I spawned into the world. These old mobs are very bizarre and act pretty randomly, but we have to keep in mind that these were some of the very first mobs that Minecraft had to offer. Good or not, they were the foundation of what's to come with these next features, and I think they are very cool regardless. However, as cool as the old mobs may be, there are so many removed and forgotten about blocks that could have majorly changed Minecraft as a game. On August 22nd, 2019, the 1.15 snapshot for Minecraft was released, as well as all of the blocks and mobs for bees. Stuff like beehives and obviously the bees themselves. However, almost 2 months later on October 13th, 2019, the file for one random block was accidentally added into the game's files. After realizing it was added, it was then later removed, as well as one other block. This block was never added into the game and was only in the game's files for a very short amount of time. The block was called the wax block, and we know little to nothing about any of the block's data other than what it looked like. And there was no way to get any information on it because there's no trace of the block anywhere except for the texture for it. This is what the block looks like, and this is all we know about it. The block that was removed alongside the wax block was the crystallized honey block. Since we don't know what these blocks were able to accomplish, there is no way to tell how they could have changed Minecraft. But we can only speculate what they might have done. A wax block could have been some physics-defying block to maybe aid fire in burning. However, on the official Minecraft archive, it states that this block did not obey physics and wasn't flammable, so we can only guess what these blocks might have done. So let me know what you think these blocks could have done in the comments below. I'm interested to hear your theories. I briefly told you about some old features back in Minecraft InDev like mobs and Steves. And when you look back at the old terrain generation, it doesn't look like anything special. In fact, in the old worlds, you were simply plopped down onto a small island with not much to do. However, before you load into a world, you actually get world generation options to change your world, and honestly, some of these options are really cool. To start, there's 3 different world shapes which are square, long, and deep. However, these are actually the boring ones. You could actually change the themes of your world. Themes like normal, hell, paradise, and woods. Normal would be the normal island, of course, but hell would spawn you into a very dark world with lava as water and a red sky. Paradise would spawn you onto a very nice island with flowers, trees, and a nice beach. And Woods, as the name suggests, spawns you into a very foresty area. However, for some reason the sky was gray and depressing in the Woods mode. Now, these modes alone were very interesting. However, let's take another look at the shape generation. Now, I did say that these are the boring ones, and generally they are boring. But there's one option that I thought was really cool. If you change the island type to floating, change the shape to deep, and do whatever theme you want, you get this massive floating world that has layered terrain throughout floating islands. Now, I thought this was incredibly cool. It's like an amplified version of a floating island world, except it's a limited world, so it's only 64 by 64 blocks on a small world. Honestly, I had way too much fun recording these parts because I couldn't help but love the floating islands and how cool the different biome themes were. The massive floating island was by far the coolest feature so far, and looking at it from afar like this is really cool. But wait, how am I looking at it from afar like this? Well, what you're currently looking at is called an isometric screenshot. It would take a screenshot of your entire world at an angle, so instead of a bland screenshot from the ground, you get this bird's eye view of your entire island. This was a feature exclusively in Minecraft InDev in the old versions. You were able to take a screenshot at any place and any time by pressing F7, and the game would render you your own screenshot of the landscape. It was likely removed because taking a screenshot of the infinite Minecraft generation today wouldn't be all that easy. However, I think this feature would be very cool in today's Minecraft if it just took a picture of the surrounding area. Speaking of pressing the F7 button, if we go a couple updates ahead, and by that I mean 3 years ahead, in Java Edition Alpha version 1.2.2a, you had the amazing ability to quite literally just spawn nether portals down wherever you wanted to. It does sound really weird, but if you pressed F4 in this version of the game, it would just plop down a nether portal right where you're standing, so you don't have to put any work in to go get obsidian. Now let's just casually go ahead 2 years from this update and take a look at the 1.8 update. In this update, you had the ever so random ability to become a superhero and manipulate time. For some reason, if you press the F6 and F7 buttons, you had the ability to change the time of the world, so if you were getting attacked by some mobs, just change the time of the world and I guess you're fine now. These features are cool and they definitely added something to the game whether they were good or not, but why don't we talk about something even weirder? In my 7 years of playing Minecraft, I have never even thought about this block, let alone know what it is. Most of us know what replay mod is. It's that mod that allows us to take cinematic shots of our Minecraft world. And you're probably wondering what this has to do with the block I'm about to talk about. Well, it really doesn't have anything to do with the block at all, other than the fact that this block allows you to take pictures in-game for later viewing. Now, unless you constantly play Minecraft Education Edition, you probably haven't heard of the camera block. The camera is a unique block that allows the player to take in-game pictures for later viewing. Placing a camera down in the world will track the player who placed it, and it will take pictures from afar. The camera was once added to Minecraft Pocket Edition, but then removed in update 0.16.0 build 2. All the way back in 1.12, it was actually added to the main Bedrock edition for full use through the /give command, only to then be removed shortly after in another update. You might be asking what the point of this block is, considering literally just pressing F2 does the exact same thing as screenshotting. And you would be 100% right, but I mean, hey, cameras can be put in minecarts, which is cool, and you might even be able to take long distance pictures with your friends, so I mean, that's cool. But if you really want to find and use a camera today, they're still possible to obtain in Pocket Edition 1.16.2. Okay, after all of the features we've looked at today, some were in the old version like InDev, some were with more recent versions like 1.15 snapshots, but why don't we go all the way back to the very first version of Minecraft as a game? And by very first, I literally mean the very first published version that is possible to get onto today. When loading up this incredibly old version of the game, there was no title screen or loading screen, it just instantly plopped you down into the world. The game didn't go into full screen, instead it was a minimized screen, and the only movement keys that were available were WASD to move around, and then obviously right click and left click to remove and place blocks. This doesn't sound like much fun until you accidentally click the G key. Now, you've probably heard of the random ability to spawn Steves that just bounce around and flail their arms, but I didn't know that you could literally spam endless Steves. So I just sat there for a while spamming Steves, and this is what happened. I ended up filling a hole with infinite Steves and then releasing them out into the wild. Again, I'm having way too much fun with these old versions. I also found out that if you press R, you get respawned to a random place in the world. So like any normal person would do, I went for a little fly session and ended up wreaking havoc. The old versions are actually super fun to mess around with, and like I said earlier in this video, it is the oldest version ever. It's the foundation of Minecraft, and as silly as it may be to mess around in, I also think it's really cool to take a look at how far the game has progressed over the past decade. It went from this, to the weird mobs, to the hordes of Steve spawning, to cool terrain generation, then developed into an actual playable game with some interesting features, and then eventually into the 1.18 update with endless things to do. For an 11-year-old game, Minecraft has come pretty far, and there are still a number of features that I haven't covered in this video that were removed throughout the years. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed, and I would really appreciate it if you subscribed. It's literally free and it helps push my content to other audiences. Thank you, and thanks for watching. Bye.